about Ertugrul and everything.
All right, what's happening, internets? Welcome to another episode of Sultans to Sneakers. I'm here today with a good friend, Ali Boriqee, currently in Florida, but originally a Chicago native. So I had to bust out the Bulls hat for this podcast.
Chi-town. Hey, I'm selling out, man. I got New York.
I was gonna say
because I got the New York hat on.
That looks like one of those hats you get from like that street vendor, like a street vendor in New York, right? You know the dude on the dude in the corner that's like selling hats in New York City.
I think that's
everybody in New York's got to hustle because that hat symbolizes like the grind in New York City. But like, you're born in Chicago.
Yep, born and a little bit raised. I was raised everywhere actually.
Okay, you've been around, but like
I've been around.
You've been around, so it's funny because we were just talking offline a little bit about like I know you're not familiar with this Last Dance documentary because like it's about the Bulls' last title run, but everyone who follows sports like myself, we don't have live sports right now, so we're following this Last Dance, and it's every Sunday they have a new series, right? So, but it's all about the culture of Chicago growing up, man. Because like, how was it like growing up in Chicago? Like, what part of the city are you from?
I'm actually from the west side. We say the west side of Shy Hill, but that's like
Humboldt Park.
That's Humboldt Park. That's most of like Diversity and Narragansett or all that area.
Right. And when's the last time you haven't been back in like a long time, right? Like a real long time.
Yeah, last time I was there. Well, technically, last time I was there was like when I was driving trucks, but that doesn't really count because I'm just passing by. But in terms of like being there, live like that was like in '98.
Wow, because it's probably changed a lot. Like a lot of gentrification has happened since then. I can imagine.
I heard.
Because the '90s, it seems like Chicago was still like a rougher. Seemed to have the impression of being a rougher town. One of the things I remember hearing about was whenever the Bulls won a title, that people would get crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it was like just like how people say mad lit is like it was lit like that. It was like people burning cars, turning cars over, shooting everything. It was just insane, and this is everywhere in the city.
Yeah,
everywhere. Gangs were doing whatever they were doing. I mean, it was like, because that Chicago, that was that time period. The Bulls weren't a name for themselves. The city didn't gain any type of sport recognition. Like that until the Jordan came on the scene, and so for them to do the triple repeat, I was there, and even in '93 when they won.
The first of the three,
the first of the three, and that was like, wow. I mean, it was insane. I was like 13 at the time, and it was crazy. And the same thing, in '95, '96, when I watched every game. That was the one I watched like every game when they won the 72-10 title.
Yeah, right.
So, and I watched the championship. I think that was when they hit up the Supersonics.
Right.
If I remember correctly. So
that
was.
That was a great time. Those some great. I mean, even the teams they beat were really good teams. I think it's but it's interesting. I remember one of my earliest memories of like sports when I was like in '94 when the Bulls lost to the Knicks the year Jordan was out. I remember I was crying when they got knocked out in Game 7.
I was like, dang man, I was mad.
I remember there was a Chicago Tribune newspaper that I may have mentioned this on a previous show at one point, but I found it at the airport. I think we went to the airport, dropped my uncle off. My uncle was like going back. He was visiting us from like New York, I think at the time, and found an old paper, a Chicago Tribune paper. Like someone in transit must have just dropped it off. It was on a seat. Picked it up. It had a Bull section in it commemorating like it was after they lost to the Knicks. But one lady, she was responding. She was like, "Man, I'm sad they lost, but I'm happy we're gonna be safe." She's like, if they win another championship, it's just gonna be like every time people just get crazy. But yeah, so Ali, tell me about like you were people know you now as Ali Boriqee, as like somebody as a Muslim dude, Florida, kind of
Muslim convert,
Puerto Rican background, etc. Right. And I first came across you about 15 years ago on some like Islamic forums where you kind of, I would say like some of the comments you would make on the forums was kind of keeping me from going to like a very extreme angle. And we can get into that a little bit. Yeah, I was,
you have to inform me what I did to you.
I think so. I was part of the Mudcully cult. Right?
Oh, for real? Are you serious?
Yeah.
Everybody had that type of tint.
I don't think I was. Here's the thing. In like, let's talk about this real quick so we're on topic about it. I wasn't like. Then the Mudcully cult is basically for the listeners is, it's a branch of the Salafi Dawah, which is, I guess, in essence, an attempt to return to, like, as we understood it, the pure way of the price of the early generations of the Muslims, right? Mm-hmm. Logically, it makes a lot of sense, right? Because you're like, you want to be authentic. How many religions go astray because they try to like they try to like modernize everything, and we were like, man, we want to be authentic, right? So the Mudcully cult was specifically a part of a brand, a certain aspect of the, like a subgroup, more or less, you would say, right? Is a fair way to put it. And they were very much about like obeying like government rulers, but also being very critical of everybody else.
Yeah, like, the thing with Mudcully ID, or the Mudcully way, I guess, is I don't know if anybody has heard of Don Quixote. It's actually a story, Latin, or I'm sorry, like
isn't that a beer?
It might be a beer. I'm not sure, but I know it's a story.
Okay.
Don Quixote is like a Spanish type of story.
Okay.
And what it is basically predicated on a dude. To be honest, my memory of it is not 100% accurate, but like he basically like romanticized. He reads certain historical past. Like from like the 1400s and like the knight type of life, the knight, the Knight, that type of knight,
right?
And so he I guess romanticizes about that, and then lives his life under, and he's like living in like a modern 18th century style life, and he's putting on attire and doing things in a 13th century mode, and like and then he judges everybody's the way they are, his outlook of everybody based on that. Mm-hmm. So that's why that sometimes in kind of like making fun of them, astaghfirullah for misguidance shouldn't be taken lightly, but like it's based off of Quixotism. It's actually an ideology called Quixotism. It's like a branch of learning, based on reflecting that type of. You could say it's a version of romanticism.
I got you.
Romanticizing the past, kind of.
And I would say this is similar like that in that sense. I didn't really think of it. That's a great analogy, and I googled it real quick when you were describing it a little bit. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I was. I don't think I was all in because, but like we had a masjid in Columbus. It still exists. Mm-hmm. That I used to attend on a regular, like almost, every day actually. Let's be like frank about it, right?
You would drive from one side of town across.
It was actually really convenient to get to because I was doing my undergrad. I was doing my bachelor's at Ohio State, at the Ohio State University.
Right.
And then what I would do is the masjid was only like maybe a 5 minute, 10 minute, less than 10 minutes.
You had it easy, brother.
Yeah,
you had it easy.
So what I would do is I would often finish classes and then I would go stop by the masjid for either Maghrib or Isha, and they'd always have like a class going on too. Mm-hmm. And that's what I liked about the spot, because there was nothing in Columbus that had any classes. So there's a class every night.
Right.
That's where I was going. At the time, Al-Maghrib was coming up too in Columbus. So I was involved with Al-Maghrib, but Al-Maghrib wasn't seen yet as by these individuals as like being deviant. Right. I mean, at least in Columbus, because a lot of the brothers in Columbus are like more immigrants. They were Somalis, Iraqis. They weren't as like, because usually the brothers who are like English as a primary language, they're up to speed on the PDFs and all that stuff. right? And all that kind of that.
So basically, what you're telling me, is that the Medkhali demographic there was not really American indigenous,
right?
That what you're saying?
The Imam was Somali. He didn't know. So when he would like, I remember I would ask them questions. Like I'd always like, I remember looking back now. I remember I would and I knew Yasser Qadi back then. I met Yasser Qadi in 2005. I was driving him around Columbus. And I remember I would ask like the Imam, hey, what do you think about Yasser Qadi? He's like, I don't know anything about him. You know, we can ask, we can ask whatchamacallit, like Sheikh Bazmul or somebody on the next television. You know, that's what he would say. Like, literally. So, these kind of things, like, but it was kind of like low key at the time. But I remember, and I used to listen to a lot of Abu Khadija. I used to really like Abu Khadija, right? So I used to take Abu Khadija's lectures, like his Jummah khutbahs, and I would give khutbah at Ohio at the MSA, like memorize Abu Khadija's khutbah and give the same khutbah on campus. So then I started seeing stuff on, like, I was on but like I'm on different forums, right? That's the forums were the thing. Ahia is where I first saw your post.
Yeah.
And you were able to, like, without being like overt about it, but you were able to like kind of critique that stuff and like show different things. And at the time I was seeing differences. I was like, okay, you got the Medina.com, you got like, how come? And one of the first questions I asked Yasser Qadi when I met him, I picked him up at the airport and it was a Friday. I took him to his hotel, picked him up. He took him to class. After class, I took him to eat. You guys got Bob Evans?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I know Bob Evans. Yeah.
I took him to Bob Evans on a Friday night. And this is September 2005. And I asked him, like, hey, what's the deal with all these Salafis fighting each other? Right. And like, why do they got beef? Because you got these Medina.com cats. You have people in like Columbus, they started their own masjid. You have like Darul Hadith, you have Damaj, the Yemeni cats. And he looked at me, he was like, where the hell am I? He's like, how do you know about this stuff? And he's like, I'm in Columbus, Ohio. How do you, like, this stuff is hit here? And he was like, he was shocked. He was like, because he just left Medina maybe a few months back. He had just started at Yale, like maybe a month before. And he thought he graduated Medina, like he had left Medina in this, like right before the summer started. He figured he was done with that. And then like literally one of the first classes he teaches in America, the dude who's the chauffeur, I'm like grilling him about like, hey, what do you think about like, this stuff? And he was like, kind of like he was shook, I remember. And it took him several years for that first impression of like us, for him to get over that, right? But yeah, I remember your posts were always kind of like, that's at the time, that's what I was juggling. I was like, yeah, everything they say makes sense, but like, how come, like, I didn't understand this whole issue of like Marabi and like, how, like, I mean, like, I'm like, why does it matter that so and so they differ on this? Like, because you don't refute that dude. Like, I don't see how that makes you a deviant because you don't want to engage in that. You understand what I'm saying? And I was like, that doesn't make no sense. And so a lot of it was like, I eventually phased out of it because I would ask questions about like, hey, I heard Imam Ahmed, used to pray with his hands on his navel or something.
Well, that's the point. The fact that you use your mind, by default, leads you out of that, because that whole thing, that the medkhali. I'm not. Let me make a specific what do you call it? Like a disclaimer here. I'm not. There's not this is not an attack on Salafism. I defend Salafism. I actually, I'm actually an adherent to being of the Salafi Dawah.
Right.
But there's a difference between, being a Salafi in a, like when you're following the way of the Salaf,
right,
following their beliefs, and their outlook. And that's totally, on the deep end. We'll fish on that maybe a long while. But anyways, then Medkhalism is that idea. But the thing is that with Medkhalism is it stops you from thinking, like it retards your growth It's basically a cult. I mean, there's different du'a, and even shiuch now saying, you know, that's like Abu Ali at the White Battle. You know, he's a, for all intents and purposes, even though he might not say he's a sheikh, but according to the standards of the Madkhalis, he's a sheikh.
Right.
But anyway, the point being is that it's a cult issue, you know, and they filter knowledge. That's one of the attributes of a cult, is they want you to, they quarantine your sources of knowledge.
Yeah.
They want you to only go through whom they validate as resources of knowledge. Everything else is quote unquote deviant. See, and this is another thing. The difference between Ahl Sunnah and the Madakhila is that Ahl Sunnah, we say that you know, everyone is innocent until proven guilty. Mm-hmm. We don't judge another Muslim to be upon in terms of giving them their rights. In terms of giving them their rights, we don't judge them upon something of corruption or bid'ah or fisk or something until proven otherwise. Whereas Madkhalis have an opposite methodology. They treat everyone as guilty of being quote unquote doubtful or guilty of bid'ah, or he's unclear. You know, that's one of the main ones they like to use. He's unclear. He ain't clear. He's not given, you know, validation yet or whatever. But
yeah,
you know, they treat everyone guilty to prove it innocent, and then they also treat everything in a very pigeonholed, pure. Basically, one of their main characteristics is everything has an outlook based off of a puritanical outlook. Mm-hmm. Everything it's almost as it negates the human reality out of it. Mm-hmm. And in reality, you know, classic Salafism or classic Islam incorporates the human reality into many of the situations, which is why we don't consider certain people who did fall into bid'ah as being mubtadi'ah and like this and like that, or people who did fall into kufr to be kufar, you know.
Yeah.
But this is something that doesn't rock with, you know, the Madakhila. They just, if you do bid'ah, you're considered off of it and stuff.
Yeah. And they would probably say that they give every Muslim the benefit of the doubt, but you're right in their application of what is like, it's now you see difference. Like the brothers I know, some of the brothers, like when I first went there, I was just a nobody, but they were welcoming. But maybe because I was in their space. Mm-hmm, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
You wouldn't see them necessarily, but like in others. But like we can come back to that. They some ridiculous things. But I want to get back to you a little bit. So what was your like religious outlook on like spirituality, religion, and like outlook on life in general growing up?
Let's see here. Well, I mean,
like most teenagers, right? We talked about like we grew up in the same era. We're about the same age, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, you know, I grew up Christian. You know, I grew up and I grew up with my family. You know, different. You know, like my grandmother was more of a Catholic leaning type of Christian.
Okay.
And my mom was more Pentecostal, so I mixed and dabbed in both worlds, I guess you can say. And so, you know, it was just one of them things. You know, I got experience like that, and at one time, I was like, at one point I was kind of religious. I read the whole Bible from front to back. Mm-hmm. Like I was like deep into it like that.
Yeah.
Not extreme though. Like I wasn't like trying to make people do things or anything. It's just I wanted to learn. You know, I was I guess you can call it a learning. I was at a learning curve type of stage, I guess you can call it. And that was like I was 15, 16 at the time. But
yeah.
No, I think about 16. And so then but then later, a little bit later afterwards, before I became Muslim, for some reason, I don't even think, looking back at it now, I don't even think I was a fully fledged atheist.
Yeah.
But I remember one time, like my cousin saying, you know, telling me, and we were like high as hell, you know, I was like, I'm talking about like zooted, like maybe you can blame it on whatever we were smoking, but I was saying it, you know, he was saying something about God, and I was like, man, God God don't exist. So that was like my first manifestation of, atheism, you can say. But I don't really think I was a fully fledged atheist. And maybe it was just me, what do you call it? Like, expressing, like some kind of
indifference,
or, just with Allah at the time. But, it wasn't, because then afterwards I was still doing some soul searching. So like, it's just and that's only because, living, without Islam is kind of like being dropped in a city without a Google Maps or without a compass to navigate where you're going. And basically what Islam did for me, and for, a lot of dudes that come in, or people that come into Islam, is it provides them not just with the purpose, but even like the answers to a lot of things that were left unclear, or just from whether it's spirituality or even life existence, or what have you. Just simply, boom, there was the answer. And it's not just that it provided the answer, but it was the answer that, like, damn, that just spot on. That just makes perfect sense.
Right.
And that was, what clicked with Islam, later on when I became 20.
Right.
I think I was 20.
When you're growing up, though, is it like going to church? Was that an integral part of your routine? Is that something your folks like emphasized? Your grandparents?
Yeah, kind of. We were just like ordinary people. I mean, we weren't like really religious, but we weren't irreligious at the same time. It's just like regular people. Some people, they just go to church and do their thing, and so you have your moments of quote unquote iman. Like rise, and how iman increases, and like faith decreases and increases. Same thing in the Christian. Sometimes you have a growth, or like a spiritual time, where you're more godly, I guess, God-fearing, or whatever you want to call it. Right. And then sometimes you just like, who cares, and go about your dunya business.
Yeah, I mean, well, I've always like assumed, or my perspective has always been that people of a Latino background or Spanish-speaking background have always inclined towards religion. Like I've never heard of like a Spanish, like a Mexican dude who's like an atheist.
Yeah.
Right? You know what I'm saying?
That's true. That's like, it is true. They're but it's like the way that religion is actually is especially stronger in South American societies, and Central American. But same thing even in the islands, but with like in Puerto Rico, especially from the old age tradition, there was religion played a big deal in the lives of people back then. It was only because, see, I'm a new ager, I was born in 80. So like around that time forward, a lot of irreligiosity, I guess you want to call it like that. Irreligiosity was growing, especially in America. So I wouldn't classify American Spanish people like as religious as the island type of.
That makes sense. It's like that with even a lot of other immigrant communities. Well, even in the Muslim community, people like most of my friends. I'm from a Bangladeshi community. I would say that more often than not, most of the guys that I know growing up are not very religious.
Right.
Well, I don't know. I don't know where they stand on Islam today, but like people I went to Sunday school with, like it just some of them, I wonder if they even like believe they even pray, they fast, like basic stuff, right? So anyways, that's kind of your background. What does it mean to you? So you're like what? The whole Boriqee, that name, that like your nickname, so to speak, it's from Boriqua. I think you were talking. It's like that's kind of a tie into like your Puerto Rican roots, right?
Yeah, because see, what happened was, after learning, you learn Islam and stuff, and different biological data from various, well, my interest was when I became Muslim, starting to learn Islam and learn and read and and attach myself with the people of knowledge, whether it's calling them or sitting with them, going to them in some way or sort. But anyways, so like I see all these different imams, scholars of Islam. They have you know, Abu Sheikh al-Islam Abu Ismail al-Harrawi, which is a nisba of Herat in Afghanistan, or you might have Imam Ahmed bin Hanbal al-Shaybani, the nisba of, I think is a city in Shayban, if I remember correctly, in Iran, or Isfahani, or what, all these different um, uh, names, surnames, I guess you call them in English. But so I like, shoot, I'm gonna just do that. I'm gonna do that for Boriqee. So all I did was just say Al Boriqee.
Yeah. That's I think that's how people know you for like forever, man.
Yeah, just to bite off the old imams,
Yeah. So now when you're like you mentioned that incident where you're like 20. Well, you were so you're 18 or so. You leave Chicago. What did you do when you left Chicago?
Well, actually.
He froze for a second.
Or when you're about to, okay, you're recording.
I'm recording now. All right, yeah.
So what was the last question, or what?
We were talking about like before I got kicked off on my Wi-Fi.
You gotta get my Wi-Fi, man.
We have good Wi-Fi. It just like the thing is sometimes it just drops. You got all these devices going, right? And I don't know. Like my phone Wi-Fi is still fine.
Yo, my joint is 5G, brother.
I'm
spending on the 5G right now.
I should probably I need to find a way to get it hardwired. The problem is like my router is like downstairs in the other part of the house. And like trying to get it like wired up and everything. But so far it hasn't been too bad. That's the good thing. We're not even live streaming, so I don't know why it like kicked me off, but because the other day I did I was on a live stream and Zoom, and it booted me. But yeah, I was just asking about what were you doing? Like you left Chicago like in 98, I think it was, when you're like 18.
Yeah, 96 actually. 96. Okay. I left Chicago. Oh yeah, so yeah,
what were you doing? What'd you do next? What'd you go from Chicago?
My family moved to Tampa. My grandmother, my mother at the time.
Okay.
And I didn't want to go to Tampa, Florida at the time.
Right.
But alhamdulillah, it turned out. I mean, it is kind of strange because they wanted to leave Chicago because of just it was better life in Florida, and to get me on a better track. But when I got to Tampa, I mean, it was just more jahiliya and more crazier. not as like in the terms of like killing and gangsters like it was in Chicago, but in terms of like partying and raving and drugs and all the other stuff.
Right.
It was deep out in Florida.
Well, I thought I always perceived Tampa as like an old folks city. Like that's people go to retire.
No. See, the thing that the stigma about Florida is like was when you see all these different shows and stuff is the retirement. It is a retirement state. It is like where people retirees come to, but usually those are like places out in the they used to be boonies. Now they're not boonies. I mean, they're like cities and stuff, but those are like for example, one of the bigger places is called the Villages, which is somewhere out in Ocala, like in the middle of Florida.
Yeah.
But like the main cities like Miami, Tampa, Orlando, those are like cities like deep cities, like urban cities like anywhere else. So especially Miami. Miami's probably the only one that has that really up north type of crazy. But and I mean, it's like third world. I mean, in some parts of Miami, it's like third world, but in other parts, it's like, it's really nice, like Orlando and Florida. coming in Tampa too. So that was where I went to Tampa.
Okay.
And I stayed there for a few years. And actually, that's where I became Muslim there.
So how did you first, like, did you ever hear about Islam growing up in Chicago?
Nope.
You know, all these Muslims in Chicago.
Nope.
Right?
Nope.
And you just like.
A resounding no.
Like, it never even, like, not even hurt. Like, you know, people would hear about, I remember we did a podcast with Danny Hernandez.
Right.
Right? And, or Mad Mamluks. And we were talking, his exposure was Mahmoud Abdul Rauf when he protested, you know, and Hakeem Olajuwon. And Olajuwon took out the Knicks. So that was like, you know, you had athletes. You had Muhammad Ali. You know, you had Malcolm X. You never heard of it. You like it.
I never put the name to the religion. I never put out because I was so, I guess you could say, ignorant. I mean, I just never connected the name to the deen. You know, I just know Hakeem Olajuwon. Actually, for Hakeem Olajuwon, I lumped him with, what's the other dude? Dikembe Mutombo.
Yeah.
So I thought it was like African, but like Dr. J, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, I never connected that with Islam. And so like in Chicago, I never even heard the word Islam at all. You know, and that's strange considering Chicago was one of the deep ends of Islam.
But one thing about Chicago that's unique is that people don't leave their hood. That I've noticed.
That's kind of true, and that was more. It might be different now, but that was like definitely back.
I think it's still like that. It's still like that.
Yeah, because up north, it's not like down here. Up north, living. You know, I have a whole lot to say about up north, but you know, a lot of negatives, some positives, but a lot of negatives. But this is one of the positives, that up north living, they do have more of a central community that kind of lasts.
Yeah.
But even that is degrading too. Like, you know, a lot of people move in and out. You know, you lose your friends and stuff like that. So
okay. That was like even it affects the suburbs. Like people who, you know, in Chicago, people will live in like Lombard or Naperville, and then they won't even like, for them to go to other suburbs, they'll make a big deal about it. You can have this. You can have the Sim. Sim will be like, he goes to the city of Chicago, like maybe like once a year. He hates going.
For real? So
now me, I'm an outsider. I'm from Ohio. When I first came up here, I'm like, oh, this is the big city. I want to check the entire city. And that's how I built my network here in Chicago. Like, even that's why people think I'm like from Chicago. I'm not, because I remember one time, man, I'll tell you a story. This is my first year here. I was at work and I went to lunch at this spot, and I work in Indiana. So like I'm at the spot, and there's like this TV, there's some food review show going on, and Chicago is known for Chicago style hot dogs, right?
Yeah.
So there's this hot dog spot called what the name is that? Not Hot Dogs. Anyways,
Hot Dog Heaven?
No, it's up on Milwaukee and Damon. It's on the north side. Super Dog.
Okay. Milwaukee and Damon, boy, that's stomping grounds right there.
Yeah. It's Milwaukee, Damon, and Devon intersection. That three-way. It's a three-way, right? So I remember I saw they had this thing, and I'm like, man, and I was a single guy back then, right? I would go to work. I'd be done with work by like 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. Sometimes 4 o'clock, be home by like 4:30 sometimes. Right? So I remember that day and it was snowing that day. And it was kind of a heavy snow, right? It wasn't like a little snow. But I was like, I ain't doing nothing. So I got like about 4:30, 5 o'clock, I got in my car, I drove up to the north side. I was living in the south suburbs, like Oak Forest area, like around you know, like down past the city, like probably a good 20 minutes south of the loop, right? And I drove all the way to the city. I went to MCC, North Side, you know, Muslim Community Center. I paid Maghrib there, I think. First time I was there, and then I went to Super Dog. And it took me like a good 2 hours to get there because it was snowing hard, right? That's the kind of stuff I would do. I would just be like, if it was something going on, I didn't mind driving, right? But and it always like disturbed me. I was like, and I was coming from Columbus. Remember, we talked about in you know, earlier in the show about how in Columbus, one of the reasons I got attracted with the Mudcully Bros is because they had classes going on, right? Now I got to Chicago, and there was like, man, it's like a buffet. Because if you want to learn about Islam, there's something going on every night somewhere. Yeah. Right? Most like, no, you got to pick. You got to be like, okay, where am I going? And I was doing that. I was driving, like, people would be like surprised, like, you live in like all the way down south, but why you coming here? I'm like, that's where the Sheikh's at. Like, what kind of question is that? Right? You know, I mean, the class is dope. Like, why would I not? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, doesn't make no sense. It's like they get this groove that, like, you. And so when I do Mad Mamluks, like when we're not quarantined, I was driving like 35 minutes one way to go to the studio.
Bro, same thing with me. I was in Atlanta at the time.
Yeah.
So Atlanta is like a major. I mean, it's one of the worst traffic places, and it's huge. It's huge, like it's a landmass wise. It's huge, like Houston or Los Angeles. Well, actually, Houston is a bit bigger, definitely. But Atlanta's huge. So I'm going from one end outside of the eastern part outside the perimeter, going to the west part outside the perimeter.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just crazy, and like 50 minutes just to get there, and that's on highway.
Yeah, I didn't mind. Like, to me, I was like, there's something. I used to listen to podcasts. I've been listening to podcasts since like 2006, I think it was, right? And so I just put on a podcast or a lecture or something. And if I got tired of listening, so my thing is I listen to music when it's like when I get sleepy.
Yeah, that's same with me.
I put music on, you know what I'm saying? So I'll put on some corny stuff too, but some stuff like some like kiddie pop from like the 90s that I can like get down to, you know. But
if I can karaoke it, then I'll play it just to get me, you know, not from falling asleep on behind the wheel, you know.
Well, yeah, you being in the whole trucking industry, I'm sure that's like much more, you know. So you got to keep on your toes. But so you're in Tampa is when you first come across Islam, though?
Yeah.
How that, like, what was that experience like? How that, did you know somebody? Like, what was the deal?
What happened was I was working in a hotel, in a 4-star hotel, Hyatt Regency. I'm pretty sure you know Hyatt.
Yeah, of course.
And it was really pretty deep. It was good at the time, and that was in downtown. So I was a cook at the time, and someone was hired there to also be a cook. And so there's a black brother, and then so me and him clicked, you know, pretty good, and he started giving me. At that time, he was like he wasn't a, what do you call it, an NOI adherent, like a Nation of Islam adherent, but you can tell he was like leaning or of that type of mind frame, if you will.
Yeah.
You know, so his form of dawah was a type of dawah that was like against the system, against the system, you know, and certain basic Islamic things, and also like a race issue, you know, the white man and this and that. I kind of, you know, some things, you know, I rock, but obviously, you know, some things that didn't make sense, like some like white are intrinsically devil or whatever.
Yeah.
I was cool with that, with, you know, kind of getting that out, but mainly, you know, against the system. So he's the one that sparked, and he even told me one time I was like doing something in the kitchen, and he came in and he said, "Repeat after me." I'm like, so he said, and then he says the shahada, and I say the shahada, not knowing what the shahada, what I'm saying or doing, but I did it anyway, and then he explained to me what it is. I'm like, okay, cool, I can get down with that. And so I guess from there, because I that was like in 2000, about September, October. But then he told me, he also gave me an English Quran or something like that, or he told me where to get it from because he didn't have one, like one to give me. He had one for himself, but not one to give me. So I went to go to the masjid at the time to get one from the imam, but he didn't give me the one that I wanted, because the one that I wanted was the one that he had, which is like Arabic and English. And you know the ruling on giving the Arabic, you know, to the kafir, right? So, but at the time I wanted the Arabic, so he gave me the English one. So I wasn't pleased with that enough. So
it was like the fake shahada kind of got your interest up.
Kind of, yeah. But the thing is I didn't contend with it. Like, I was cool with it.
Like, in what basis? Like, so you were like, all right, the one God concept makes sense, but like the second part of it,
even the Muhammad Rasulullah, it was. I'm sorry, it was a learning curve, or like it's kind of scary for a convert in the sense that you think like you're abandoning Isa alayhi salam, Jesus. You're abandoning his way, and
right.
but that quickly got just learning more, that quickly is not the case.
That predated kind of the whole Shahada thing, right? So it was like you kind of learned, you listened to who the Prophet Muhammad was, and it made sense.
Yeah, and so what I did,
there weren't like hang-ups.
Yeah, so what I did was I wasn't pleased with the English rendering of the Quran. He gave me the Yusuf Ali one, right? So, but in English only. So I went to the one I went to a Barnes and Nobles, right? And so I got me one. It wasn't the exact one that he had, because he had the Yusuf Ali. Well, the one that I got was a Shiite rendition, a Shiite Tarsil, some name I can't even pronounce to this day. Tarsil is the name of the publisher. So they had one where it was Arabic and English side by side, so I can see the Arabic.
Yeah.
And so when I'm reading it, that from that point forward, I think, like, subhanAllah, I'm reading like old ancient manuscripts, like I get that feeling, like it's like I'm getting like more into the deen. Like, I don't know, it's just a feeling.
I see what you're saying. I think that's like when you, because even non-Muslims the fact that even a Muslim who knows like next to nothing can recite like Qul huwallahu ahad.
right. Yeah.
And they'll be impressed by it.
I read that whole Quran like in maybe 2 or 3 weeks maximum.
So that was the first.
I started reading it again more.
That was the first time. That was the first book you read, kind of.
Yes, and the way I was reading it, because I was so like, I got so zoned into the Quran that the way I was reading it out at home, I would lock myself in the room. And have you ever seen like a pastor give out his sermon, his Sunday sermon, like with fiery, like, especially black. Okay, so I was reading the Quran in the ayah in that manner. I was like kind of like blasting it as if I'm giving a sermon, like with spirit. You know what I'm saying? But in English, because I didn't know Arabic. So I did that a lot. The Quran for me was doing that, going to work reading it, at work reading it, and coming home reading it. And then when I finished the Quran and I wanted to become Muslim, like I wanted to do it like I guess I test my Islam. So I got together with this Moroccan brother who was in the same hotel. I didn't even know there was a bunch of Muslims there. I didn't know there were Muslims, because I remember the gown of not knowing Islam is like only when you learn, So he told me where to go, and he took me, and I went to the Friday sermon. Alhamdulillah, it was good, and then that night when he took me, and this was sometime in December of 2000, something like that. Either December 2000, January 2001, one of them. So that night in the evening, this brother was giving a dars, and so he gave me the shahada then in front of the people. So I guess you can call that my official, shahada coming into Islam. But I was already in belief of it already.
Right. How did your family take it?
My family had different reactions, because like my mother had an okay reaction, and it turned out to be more better, but only because of what Islam did for me.
Right.
But from my cousin and like some people who I did my jahiliyyah with, they didn't take it kindly, because what Islam meant was leaving off of you know, the jahiliyyah, acts of jahiliyyah, you know,
right,
drugs, partying, and all that stuff.
Yeah,
and
jahiliyyah is a good translation.
You're doing it with your boys. You're doing it with your comrades, and so
right.
you know, you not doing it. You know, even it came to a point one time where I'm like in month 2 of my Islam, right? Maybe it's like 1-2 months into Islam, and my cousin tries me. He's like, "Man, you ain't gonna stop smoking weed. You gonna remain. Forget that religion, whatever."
Yeah.
And then so at the time I had a tongue ring, and so at the time I was like, I told him, "Man, bump this. I ain't smoking at all." And from that point forward till this day in 2020,
right.
I ain't smoked not even one puff.
Right.
And I even took off, like, as a symbol to seal it. I took off my tongue ring and said, "Nah, I ain't doing none of this no more." And that was it. I was like hardcore with it. I wasn't even playing around.
The what was it? The term for jahiliyyah, I think that translates well to English is wild and out, kind of. I think
that needs a translation on its own, because to say the times of ignorance, this doesn't sound right in English.
yeah. That's what it literally translates to. But I'm like, context is like, man, like you
I know.
Like partying, going to raves, you know.
Yeah.
Hitting the joint,
after learning a little bit of Arabic and just, you know, certain things, and I was like, okay, like, yeah, some things need to be revised. Even the whole Quran, I think the whole Quran, all the translations are kind of sucky. It needs to be like a real deal street style where everybody can understand what's happening in the ayat,
right,
in a way that they can understand it. And reading the Yusuf Ali or the Muhsin Khan or the other ones that are out there.
Yeah.
The best one that I think now is this brother, what's his name? He's from Iran. What's his name? Baluchi, Omar Baluch.
Okay.
Omar Baluch, he has like a Sheikh Omar Baluch. He has like I guess he made a project of translating the Quran. It's pretty decent.
Okay.
I think I have it somewhere here. I gotta find it.
Yeah, I got you. So you've always struck me as a kind of guy who's very well read, who like reads a lot. But like, were you like that as a kid? Were you like a good student in school?
No,
like, were you into reading?
I hated reading.
But you talked earlier.
I hated reading because my attention span is only given to things that I'm interested in. So, and I wasn't interested in school matters.
Yeah.
Anything school matters.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess some people can attribute that to my ADD or whatever. Yeah. I wasn't, but I even think that's pretty much of a farce in and of itself. But that's a long, different topic altogether.
You know, you're 20 years old though when you converted to Islam, and you seem to have already taken a liking to being able to read, like reading the Quran in like 3 weeks. Even before, you talked about you read the Bible when you were 16, right? Uh-huh. You were interested in it, right?
Yeah.
Did you ever have you ever done the overseas study? Is that something you ever like actually seriously considered?
I was actually going to do that. I was actually going to go overseas, but what happened was because like when I was in Atlanta and I'm already in Islam, like a year or so. This is in 2002, I think now.
Yeah.
So it's a little over a year and a half, almost 2 years. So, you know, things are popping up. Should I go to study, and you know, or get married?
Yeah.
And I guess from the initial it's a conundrum, because you start to think, I don't know, both have their benefits and both have their negatives.
Yeah.
Even studying, but it's because you don't know how to study yet, you know. But so I think I just chose marriage. I said, you know, I just get married. And that's what I did actually. I just got married. And I think that was actually the better path, considering the state of the dawah and of the Muslims at the time.
Right.
Yeah, because
But you could have gotten married, right, and still got to the Islamic University of Medina because
yeah, but
at the age,
that would have
right?
been. I mean, Allahu Alam, only Allah knows the different realities that could have occurred.
Right.
But I don't know. I mean, I don't think I would have gotten married because doing the marriage thing. I mean, doing the studying thing, unless sometime later on afterwards. But what I'm saying is, I think I'm more. What I'm trying to say is, I think I'm glad. What I'm trying to say is, I'm glad and happy with the marriage that I have, rather than some other marriage with some other woman. Because I'm cool with my peoples, my wifey, and the children that alhamdulillah Allah bless us with.
Right. And you better say that because she might listen to the show.
Yeah. But
you can't be like.
Yeah, but it's a whole host of things,
Right. Absolutely.
Because I honestly I can't. I can't. Now thinking back, had I rolled with marrying some Arab or someone else that doesn't like get me in a way or something, that would cause some kind of issues, I guess, marital issues, discord, and like as has happened with so many of the people that I know.
Right. Can you check something on your end real quick? You started like echoing for some reason the last 30 seconds, but everything's good. Okay, we'll just it might go away by itself. But anyways, where did you like? You said, because you said the brother who got you exposed was kind of like on that more political, militant tip in that way, revolutionary.
Yeah, I wouldn't say.
Yeah, I don't want to say you don't say militant. Yeah, militant's a tricky word because people automatically.
Yeah, not militant. Yeah, not ISIS, not that issue, but like like the power. Like, have you ever seen that crazy butt behind movie from the hood? I'm gonna get you, sucker. I think it is.
Oh,
I'm gonna get you, sucker. Or one of them old movies from like the 60s.
What about the Spike 70s? The Spike Lee joint?
No, it was actually before Spike Lee.
Okay, no, I haven't seen anything that old.
It's the one where like some black like it's a scene where they're making fun of it's actually even in a rap song where some black group of black folks that are out rioting, they go inside of a place or business and they come out with jobs. I forget, man. It is because I haven't seen it in so long, but it's actually I'm trying to tie it into what we just said here. It's like that type of militancy. It's not like
I think people. It reminds me of like the whole fight the power or like
like the Black Panthers or something like that.
Or what was what I'm saying? Like the movie I was thinking about was like what's that Spike Lee movie from like the late '80s? That's like
with what's her name, the Puerto Rican girl, Lopez.
Rosie Perez.
My bad. Yeah.
But
is that the one you're talking about?
I don't know.
Do the Right Thing.
Do the Right Thing. Yeah.
Do the Right Thing. Yeah.
Where the scene where the white dude in the Larry Bird jersey runs over the dude's Jordans on his bike, bugging out.
I mean.
But like that kind of like not rioting either, but like that's what happened, right?
Yeah.
Like you get what I'm saying. People don't understand the movie though; they'll get the vibe. But when did you this whole exposure to like the Salafism or whatnot? It seems like you're naturally inclined though to like almost like I want to get back to the roots of stuff. The fact that you were attracted to the language of Arabic. Yeah.
So like in the first 2-3 months of I'm after becoming Muslim, I go to the Sly Masjid. I forget the name and what it's called right now, but we just call it the Sly Masjid in Tampa anyway. So because it's on Sly Avenue, and I learned like that the Imam was a Tahriri. He was a Tahriri, but meaning from Hizb ut-Tahrir.
Okay, gotcha. I never heard him
political group.
I've never heard him described that way.
Tahriri, Tahriri. It's the Arabic way of saying it, I guess.
Okay.
But he. So man, I mean, I was learning the letters, like I was doing everything, and I learned how to read the Quran, like in less than, I would say, in a couple weeks.
Really?
I started reading Quran in a couple weeks. and I even wanted to say the right makhraj in the way that it's supposed to be uttered.
Right.
You know, not no Zalin or whatever like that. I wanted to say Balin, you know, like with its proper takhrij and what do you call it? What I forget the name of it. Anyways,
the pronunciation, basically.
Yeah. So that, and then I met brother Ali. Actually, that imam, he named me Ali.
Okay.
Because at the time I didn't really have, and you know, I want to address two misconceptions here, because the first misconception is like, you got to change your name. You ain't got to change your name. But at the same time, if you change your name, so what?
Yeah.
You know, it's like addressing both groups, you know, like stigmas of why you change your name.
Right.
Who cares? I changed my name. But I mean, I didn't really change it legally. It was just, you know, everybody refers to me as Ali. But he said like his reasoning was, you know, because Ali comes from Allah, and Allah is tall, like, or like lofty. And since I was a tall brother, you know, he said you should be Ali.
Right.
So me just conceding to him, I'm like, all right, cool. That's I'll be Ali. And that was what stuck. So everybody called me Ali, and he has since passed away, rahimahullah. And he was that's why I learned the Arabic scripting and stuff like that. So then then this brother Ali was telling me about he's from Hizb ut-Tahrir. Don't be wary of kind of taking knowledge from him. I'm like, okay, cool. But me and Ali clicked though, and he was a black brother, but he knew Spanish too.
Okay.
And he knows like the Spanish culture and everything. In fact, he's the one that showed me about Don Quixote. You know, when we talked about earlier, he's the one that told me about the whole paradigm of Don Quixote. I didn't even know that.
Mm-hmm.
So he's a professor. He's a professor of either history, actually from two different disciplines, history and something else. I forget, social science, so sociology, I guess. And so he was a very literate, learned brother, you know. And although he came to me from that angle, and he came to me with Salafism and being Salafi. He was one of the balanced brothers, because there's a lot of brothers with that have like balance, that, you know, are Salafis, you know, they follow the Salafi Dawah. So that was kind of, you know, where we got into it, you know, into that whole Salafi movement thing from that point forward.
I would say it just made sense from the beginning, right? Because even when I came into practicing Islam, the idea was like, as we touched on in the beginning of the show, was that the point of it is that like now people can disagree with the premise, and people like I think people say I come across like people say I'm pretty much a full blown Sufi these days, right? But what I will say though is this, that my Aqidah is still of an Athari Aqidah, like, because I just haven't like my point of view is, and maybe we can get into this a little bit, is that like the schools of Kalam, of the Ash'aris, or those schools that are like, I mean, I see a use to it in certain ways, and we can get into that. But like myself, I couldn't call myself an Ash'ari. I'm like I'm not like, to me, it's not like, just because maybe because I haven't learned it enough. Like I definitely ascribe to like a madhab. I think that's what, you know, but I think the goal of every Muslim though is to like follow. No one can dispute that the actual pious the early generations are the best generations. That's got to be agreed upon, right?
Right.
What happens is that like now, how do we interpret what that is? And I think that's kind of where. But it seems like since you got on that path, what's like almost like 20 years ago, you haven't really strayed from that, right? You've kind of it's kind of just building upon that. Would you say? Did you ever divert into any other groups at any time? Or
no, I didn't divert into any other groups. But what I realized, or what after learning more, I realized that that a lot of the quote unquote Salafi truths weren't actual truths, or what they say, the Salaf were united on their usul is not entirely accurate in that way, in that fashion. I would even venture to say that even tasawwuf itself is not something that is quote unquote anti-Salafi in the way that a lot of modern Salafis think of as because that's see, here's the thing. Salafism in the West, and you can whether you understand it West as American centric, or America and UK centric, or the West in general in terms of not the non-Muslim world, I guess you could say, whatever context, because you can even incorporate France or whatever. Well, France is more of a, like, Salafism there is more najdistic, more Kharijite than the West, or like American Islam, Salafism in UK. But the quote unquote Salafism in America is actually Madkhalism. It's not even really Salafism, and this is why I don't think Salafism actually prospered in America, because the quote unquote Salafism that was given to people was actually Madkhali thinking, a Madkhali frame of thinking. It wasn't real Salafism in actuality. It's not. I mean, a lot of the precepts are misguided. They're not, or they're based off of modern thinkers, and they're not actual positions of the Salaf.
Right. You know, even 15 years, like when I was talking about when I met Yasser Qadi, he was like at that time still averse from using the term Salafi, ascribing himself to that, because he was like, at that point, it was being used as a weapon, right?
Yeah, I agree.
You know what I'm saying? So I think that's where it's like, you need, like, that's why I like these long form shows, because you can kind of break that down and explain, like, you know, what it means. You know, and there, you know, there's obviously perception stuff, but like when you get into how have you seen things evolve? 'Cause like I remember when we became, you know, a lot of you talk to the brothers like Ismail Royer, right? Or you people who like converted like back in the day, and then like how everything changed. Like because back then, like when we were in the forums, it was like you weren't even caring about what the Sufis did. It was like they're doing their own thing. You know what I'm saying? It was like their own little space. They did their own thing. If you met them, you know, whatever. But like in general, if there are people on that, it was almost like a different community, right? And you had this infighting amongst people you agree with like 95% of stuff with. That's what I saw, right?
Yeah, because at the time, see, here's my somewhat of my personal philosophy is that you got to clean up house before you move forward.
Yeah.
So I think that Ahlul Sunnah, or I would think that Salafis, we would fix ourselves, I guess you can say, before going outward. And same thing with Muslims. Like, I'm not a good person to go outside to non-Muslims and give dawah. My thing is not about, or what I'm trying to say is, I'm more of a quality type of person where I want to focus on Muslims. And at that time, you know, Salafis with these mistaken Madkhali notions.
Right.
Versus, you know, dealing with other Muslims at that time. And then, you know, and now in general, dealing with the non-Muslims. You know, I mean, I'll talk and give dawah to non-Muslims, but my thing is, my focus is on Muslims. Quality, I guess, over quantity.
Yeah.
Even though, you know, some people's vibe is different. You know, some people they like to give dawah in the other type of way.
It seems to me that your approach, even back then when I noticed like 15 years ago, is that you've been more like I think what people respect about you is that you know what you're about, right? You know what you believe in, but at the same time you're able to like negotiate with others that might have like little differences. You know what I'm saying? You like, and I think that's what that's a quality a lot of people can't get. Like, and people that can't navigate that just burn themselves out.
Two issues: word usage. word usage and correctly identifying what is what. The reason why a lot of mischief or things happen is because a lot of people aren't able to identify what is what, and as a result, they speak past each other, and then they enhance their arguments beyond what didn't even need to be said, or this, that, or the other. So it's like, if you can identify what is what, it's part of logic. What is apples, what is oranges, what is hitting the matter, what is not hitting the matter, whatever. And then just proper word usage. If you can utilize the best speech or the proper speech for what you're trying to say, then that kind of, actually those two things really cuts more than half your battles right there.
Yeah, I got you. Did you ever say you study? I had the impression that you studied Arabic to some level, right? Where you could like go through like a primer or something like that. Is that accurate, or like what's your level of understanding?
Pretty much. It's not like real deep. It's not like real. I can't have a conversational Arabic speech. I can read it and understand it for the most part.
Yeah.
Unless it depends on the scholar too. Like Ibn Taymiyyah Arabic is kind of hard for me. Like Ibn Arabi Arabic, the Sufi Arab, is like, that's gonna have me lost a little bit. It just depends on what, and it also depends on the context. Aqidah topics, I can understand. Fiqh topics, I can kind of understand.
Right.
Different other topics, I won't really understand that well. It just depends on the topic, who the speaker is, and like this. Hadith is pretty simple, kind of, and but like I had different people teach me. That Dr. Saif, he taught me how to make to conjugate the verbs and stuff in context. So
I got you.
And even Abu Tova, studying a little bit of Ajrumiyya, using his material. So alhamdulillah, I get it's pretty. But it's not like solid.
Do you have a systematic approach, like, because obviously, like I'll see you commenting or like making posts and stuff. Do you have a systematic approach to studying? Like I said the other day, you posted Dr. Hatem al-Hajj's recent book, which I need to get a hold of. You said you said you're gonna like read. So you said you were gonna sit down and just knock it out in like 2 hours, right?
Because that's not a book. Hatem al-Hajj's book is not a book of like if you want to study a foundational work.
Okay.
That book is more is actually even more intermediate, because that's something like that's something for people who know about the nature of the Salafi or the Athari divide with the Kalam school of the Asharis.
Right.
Most Muslims, they don't even know what an Ashari is, or they only know what Salafi is based off of the media.
Yeah.
Outside of that, or like the extremism of certain Salafi people. But outside of, if it wasn't for those two issues, they wouldn't even know what a Salafi is either. They don't know really what Salafis or Asharis is.
Right.
So they sure as hell don't even know about all the intricacies of the differences in their theological positions between them at all. So I wouldn't even, that's not something that an average Muslim I think should read. Really, that book is only for like people who know about the differences and to understand the Athari or the Salafi view on the topic in relation to how the Ashari positions are, I guess you could say. And I haven't even read it. I was just gonna read to it sometime today, but I was just getting
it's still early Ramadan, man. I usually got to do like that kind of reading like after Maghrib, after I got my caffeine. But what kind of books on theology do Salaf like? Because I know you are not about, correct me if I'm wrong, you are not about Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab. Is that accurate?
70% accurate.
70%. Okay.
Because I'm not of the camp. I'm not of a complete anti anti-Wahhabi camp. I'm not. I'm like I don't give in to 100% to the because a lot of it's propaganda and propagandized. But at the same time, I wouldn't go out promoting his thing. I like certain things is okay, but the thing is that with Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, rahimahullah, he just has issues with extremism and takfir. That is literally what Kharijism is. It's going into takfir in those matters where there is no right to takfir.
Right. Okay.
That's literally what Kharijism is. So, and Al-Albani was frank, and Sheikh Al-Albani, the king of Salafism, in the West, what most Salafis understand as the model example of being Salafi. That this is him saying, that the Najdis went into some extremism and takfir. Not that he would say that. This is another thing. Like some Salafis would say, they're guilt. They do excessive takfir, but then they wouldn't say Kharijite.
Yeah.
I would say that makes no sense because the two are the same. They're synonymous.
Right. Yeah.
It doesn't to say, oh, he's takfiri, but not Kharijite doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I got, but like the reason I ask is because when I remember when the classes, when we were taking, when you talk about the theology, the first book you read is Usul Thalatha, three principles of Islam.
Yeah, because that's modern Salaf. This one I'm trying to say is like a modern Salafism, whereas classic Salafism was built off of the creedal outlines of the early scholars. So like for example, the first, if you want to say one of the first or the first Athari book ever, you can say is the Sharh al-Sunnah of Imam al-Muzani.
Okay.
And we're talking about, this is before Imam Ahmed. This is the student of Imam Muzani is the student of Imam al-Shafi.
Sure.
Sharh al-Sunnah.
Okay.
So another early work, Usul al-Sunnah of Imam Ahmed. And then you go on from there, the Risala of Ibn Abi Zayd, and you keep going, At-Tahawiyah. You name it. Different.
But some people will critique Tahawiyah as being too open. I mean, you can spin
open
it.
In what?
You can spin the interpretation, in some way. Like I guess what I'm asking is, let's say a fresh convert to Islam shows up at your door, right? Mm-hmm. What English books of theology do you give him? That's the bottom line.
I would give him the Sharh Sunnah of Imam al-Muzani. I would literally give him that. Heck yeah. Oh okay. Yeah. I would give him that, or the Sul Sunnah of Imam Ahmed, or another good one I like is the Lumat al-I'tiqad by Ibn Qudama.
Okay, but are those sometimes I remember this was something that when I talked to some brothers about like back in the days, like even those translations have spin in them because they're done by Madakhila, right?
Nah, those translations.
Like I have an Usul Sunnah translation. It's by Spubs, I think.
No, I don't have that. I have a Usul Sunnah, but I don't think I have it by Spubs. But even at that, the thing with the spin is the actual people that have more spin are people against the Salafis.
Yeah,
Salafis do have some spin. And like I even read Muhsin Khan, a translation of I forget, man. I should have kind of did a refresher before this.
We didn't know we were talking about. Like I didn't give you topics, so
yeah. It's just general. So we're going off freestyle here, but like so. Yeah, this. I mean, both parties are guilty of some spin. Yeah. I just think that there is a bit more, and even different styles of spin. On the part of the anti-Salafi camp, I guess you can
say. There's like a huge spectrum now of like of the Sufi wing, though. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like I felt like in the 2000s, like the traditional Sufi wing was more tight. in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? You had like, well, I don't know. No, maybe because the socioeconomic climate, because like with institutions, there's, you know, because you've always had the Dr. Omar Farouk Abdullahs, right? Who are accommodating to like more like mass, like people, someone who's like new to Islam will be comfortable going to his space. But like a Sheikh Nu Keller is like more hardcore. Like you're not going to go to him unless like he don't even want you having a TV. You understand what I'm saying? So I guess in a way it still hasn't like shifted. I think some of the, like I heard Dr. Shadi al-Masri talk about this a lot, is that like how the Sufis have fallen victim to like allowing a lot of like becoming soft on issues and then allowing a lot of stuff like filter in that they
But I
shouldn't.
don't think that's a result of Sufism. That's just a result of irja,
of society,
of irja liberalism.
Oh, liberal. Okay.
Yeah,
so
that's
yeah,
a result. Yeah.
that's a good segue. You know, so you talk like what's this irja thing is like this idea of like where iman, is that the word where iman does not move, so to speak?
Yeah, irja is actually a multi-pronged concept of faith.
Sure.
First prong is that faith doesn't increase or decrease; it just remains the same.
Okay.
Which means that the faith of an evildoer can be equal with a very righteous person.
Sure.
That's the end result, the end result of that thinking. That's one part of it. Another part of irja is that actions, and actually this is the most frightening or the most relevant part of irja, is that they say that actions don't affect faith. Because to them, they say, the Murji'a, they say that faith is only belief in the heart. And some say belief in the heart and speech of the tongue. But they said that actions of the, see, Ahlul Sunnah, we say Iman, Iman is tasdeeq bi qalb, and then meaning the attestation of the heart. And then after that they said is qawl bil lisan, meaning the speech of the tongue. And then they say la amalu bi jawarih, meaning the actions that are performed by your
arms and legs,
your limbs, your limbs, meaning, you know, like, you know, looking at what we're not supposed to look at, or things like that. These things affect us, right? So so they're saying that actions don't affect faith. Well, fast forward into modern society, what this translates to is that really you can do whatever you want, and it should have no effect on my faith. Only God can judge me. You understand? So it's like it's almost lends to a type of hedonism in a way. And the medieval Christians did battle this. They were actually the first to battle the Murji'a of their religion, because what happened was the Catholics at the time they were more, I guess to put a Muslim equivalent, just for context, to make sense, the Catholics were more orthodox or Salafistic in their thinking of actions.
Yeah.
Whereas the Protestants, they said, no, we don't have to do anything, just believe, and that's it. You understand? So this is their irja. So it's the same type of thing in Islam, where the Murji'a, their basic output is that, you know, actions have no relevancy to the realm of my faith.
Okay, and so basically that's why people are like, oh, as long as I believe in God, I'm good.
As long as I'm a Muslim, you know, then what I do shouldn't matter really.
So do you think it's actually manifested? Because don't you think part of it is just like trying to meet people at their level and helping them work out the kinks? Because if you actually do think about, like, I'm not sure how you would think about salvation, but like, so would you agree that a person who who dies upon Islam or Iman and does nothing, just chills, he could still get into paradise.
Who dies upon Islam and Iman?
Yeah, but chills, right? But he was sincere. Like, for whatever reason, he did nothing. I don't know. He was just straight up lazy.
Well, that is a possibility, but the thing is that even the Hanbalis and the Ash'aris got into this, and this make believe. See, here's the thing. I think that this is a make believe existence. Even Ali Hassan al-Halabi, he was, I don't know if you remember him.
Yeah, of course.
He's the one that that blasted the Saudi Najdi Salafis because they were accusing him of irja. But he was saying, this idea that people can have Islam and Iman and do no action whatsoever, it's only theoretical. It doesn't actually exist in human life. For example, when a person is living a life, even his action of shahada is a good thing. Yeah. Right. If he feeds him, there's nothing. I don't think that there is not a thing that a person does that can't be identified as good. Obviously, if you're going 30, 40, 50, 60 years, obviously there's going to be one thing. I'm pretty sure more than that, but one thing is good enough. You know what I'm saying? This idea that you can be a quote unquote Muslim and not do nothing for 40, 50 years, it just doesn't exist. I don't think it.
I would certainly agree with that. I think that if you this idea that you have Iman and you do absolutely nothing forever.
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, because it's like
I'm pretty sure you give a poor dude out on the street $1 or $2 or something.
Right.
Like somebody would do that. That's a good thing. Boom, there you go. There's your good thing, and case closed.
Right.
If that alone for the next 40 years, but I'm just saying, that's not realistic. People live their life and do things. So obviously there's going to be a thing that's going to be good.
So without naming any individuals, but can you give us like a real life example of like how this irja is manifested today? Like a common example.
Man,
I'm still trying to process.
Just look at Twitter.
Okay. Well,
just look at Twitter.
The whole "don't judge me" thing, right?
Yeah.
That to me is more like them not understanding that the adin nasiha. Right?
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Okay, so I think that person is still, I would think, still struggling with whatever shortcomings they have. They're trying to but it's kind of like people are so overbearing that they're like, all right, give me my own space. Let me stop hammering, because some cats are just famous. They'll just hammer away relentlessly at somebody without thinking about their circumstance, right?
Right. But the thing is that like most things, there's always a double meaning. There's always a true meaning and a false meaning.
Yep.
It is true. I mean, even the statement from Pac himself is true. Only God can judge me, or only He can judge me, right? And Islamically, that is true. Only Allah can judge me. So, the area of target that I'm hitting at is not really at the statement, but it's more with regards to the mentality behind it of why they're saying it. Mm-hmm. Usually applied to someone like, for example, when I give you a nasiha, when I give you, when people, because here's the thing, we're commanded to advise towards what is correct and prohibit or try to steer people away from what is not correct or not good. That's generally what we should be doing. And the reception of that, if the reception of that is only God can judge me, firstly it's faulty, because they're thinking that they're interpreting your advice to them as a judging. No, it's not a judging. It's just, I'm just telling you shouldn't do it. Try to get away from that. Right. It's just being real. And that's the thing, that the lost thing about it is is people are not being real about it. Both the advisor, but and also the one advised. He just interprets everything as it's against him.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just, you know, it creates an environment of like we have today, you know, where people can't say anything because of hurting other people's feelings and stuff. That's liberal irja, you know, all of that is in my quote unquote humble opinion.
And that's you feel like that's what some of the religious leadership has been.
Hey, give me 1 second. I want to let my cat out real quick.
Sure.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
I don't know how she got in my office, but well, I guess she was hiding and sleeping.
Yeah. No, but and so your take is that a lot of our religious leadership in the United States or in the West or the English speaking world has been affected by this idea as well, where it's like we want to make sure everything's palatable, not hurt anyone's feelings, being overly sensitive in a way.
Yeah. The culture of PC is really the culture of PC is what really kind of messed things up a lot. It's a fake. It actually comes from the communists, from the I think it's collectivist ideology.
Yeah. I want to finish off with something like, but before I go there, I do want to ask you, like, do you ever think about, like, as someone, you know, an American of like Puerto Rican, like Mexican background, and then but also being part of a religious community that's like we're what 1% of the population, right? You know,
or less, yeah,
something like that. You know, if you think about, like, you know, I don't know how they get those numbers. But do you ever think about like what you would want, like your ideal America? Because I assume you're not planning on making hijra or nothing, right?
I was at a time.
You know, like going over to a Muslim land.
I was at a time, you know, I was at a time thinking about hijra, and actually, to be honest, even now I'm thinking about hijrable places.
Yeah.
Even though technically most places on the planet are unhijrable. You know, I think it's just, you know, because the whole modern state system kind of jammed up the entire nature of how to even perform hijrah.
Right.
But,
you know,
I mean, I do have some places in mind.
Like, I've been, before this whole Corona pandemic hit, I had like the last 2 weeks of December, reserved for vacation. I was gonna like go to Istanbul and then Kuala Lumpur.
Yeah, that's actually my two target places. You know, Turkey and Malaysia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, but I think, so I think that's where. But do you say, let's say, like, realistic, we're all just stuck here. We're gonna like end up just growing up and dying here. What do you see the future? Like, what do you think our goal should be? Like, how should our community look like in the U.S. for our kids, maybe, maybe in 100 years, or maybe for our grandkids? You ever think about that?
Yeah. I honestly, because I don't see why we can't just have our own Islam in the same way that all the other regions of Muslims had their own Islam, and I don't say that in terms of their own offshoot religion or offshoot fiqh or offshoot aqidah. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like in terms of like maybe I don't have to wear my a thobe 100%. I actually, you know, I don't wear thobes too much anymore. But like even this, well, I can't sport this. You know, it's still a covering of my head. You know, as a kufi, even though it's a brim. You know, this is the American style kufi now.
Yeah.
You know, but I'm just saying, you know, or like the women developing their type of dress. I mean, I think even like these hijabinista, fashionista type coverings, they're okay. I mean, some people would quote unquote dispute, but I guess in fulfilling the minimum requirements of the hijab, some of them do fulfill that. So I don't see what's the big deal. And that's the thing, like, you know, if like the the Saudi style is the only conception of a woman's hijab, there's an issue there, or even the Pakistani style or the Malaysian style or whatever.
So it's almost like creating because I
even the Turks have their own style.
Yeah, so we talk about like my I have only I don't know, I have 3 girls. They're all, my kids are younger than yours. You know, I understand one of your kids is a superstar like martial arts or something. Yeah, but alhamdulillah. But my daughter, my oldest is 6. I got 3 girls, right? So I was like thinking about like, you know what, as they get old, like I don't think if they dress like a hijab fashionista when they're like in their 20s, I don't know if I'd really like trip about it. You know what I'm saying? Like assuming other things are okay. Yeah. You know, I don't know if I'd trip about it. You know, even if like I've thought about like what if she doesn't wear hijab? I mean, if like I don't know, we'll tackle that bridge when it comes. Like
in my hardcore days, I would be tripping about it, but I don't think I'm hardcore like that anymore.
Yeah, no, I wasn't either. You know what? When I first got married, I don't know if you'd like this, man. It's like we would, it would be me and my wife in the car, just us.
You had a car? You say you and your wife had a car?
Yeah, like I was driving. Yeah, I'll be driving the car, right?
Okay.
And it's like right when we first got married, and her like if her like whatever her shirt sleeve got like a little like down here showing her wrist, I'd like pull it back up. All the time, right? And over a while, I just like, I don't know if like maybe it's the wrong position. I just stopped caring. I was like, listen, she's got to be responsible for her own actions, right? I used to, because the person that I used to really hammer her on stuff, and like, I didn't know if it was
you were Yusuf, you were Hajjaj bin Yusuf when you first got married with her, huh?
But you know, I remember the one time we were talking about like when we first got married. I was told her to listen. I know when your birthday is. But like, just don't expect that me to say happy birthday because I only do the 2 Eids.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and then later I was like, oh well, you know, and we still won't make a big deal about birthdays, but like my birthday will pass, and only my daughter will come say happy birthday to me, and I'm like, damn, I built that up. I established that precedent, right? Feel bad about it. But anyways, as we wrap up here, you know, you touched upon the Turk, so the show Ertugrul, and now like Kurulus Osman. I think people have like, that's opened up a lot of like angles for people to look at Islam in a way, right? I think you and I have really connected on that show in the sense like we agree. I see a lot of your points is that like people who hate on it for like being like, oh, it's not historically accurate. Like, dude, that show has taught me how to like make dua in a way.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
See that the show itself is this, honestly, it's the sign of Islam. It is the sign of Islam and like, okay, like some scholars had identified certain icons as Islam, like now, like, you know, like the sun crescent, you know, the crescent, like, right. Okay, so that's considered, even though people might argue and say, oh, that's a bit fine, I understand,
sure,
but in terms of like, so there's certain things that, like, for example, the wooden thing that holds the mushaf,
right,
when you, okay, that's like an quote unquote icon of Islam, right? So criticizing these things is almost considered, maybe not technically considered, but almost criticizing like you're criticizing Islam. Same thing with the niqab,
right?
You know, the niqab, you know, you don't call them, you know, ninjas, you know, degrading them, you know,
right?
That's a sign of Islam, even if many Muslims don't wear it.
Right.
But I'm just saying it's still a sign, or the hijab symbol is a sign of Islam, like right. This. Or the flag, La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, is, you know, a quote unquote icon of Islam. So in the same way, the show itself has now become an icon of Islam. The show is like, for me, subhanAllah, I mean, I know brothers who, it helped their marriage. It helped their Islamic livelihood as a result of it. And you know, the cool thing about the show is it doesn't have that typical, you know, extreme tasawwuf or Sufi, like, it's like a basic Islam in reality, like a basic Islam in all things. You know, they're making their salah. When Ibn Arabi is giving his, you know, lectures or what do you call it? Reminders.
Yeah,
it is exactly. adhkar, it's just basically a hadith, even though sometimes some of those hadith are weak, from a hadith standpoint. Looking back, I know, which ones, I know that is, not strong. But anyways, but the point being is that it doesn't go off on some crazy flying in the dream type stuff. You know, I think the Mad Mamluks, when they had Muhammad Gilan explain this point on Ertugrul, that actually that show is more practical, sophistic than other shows like Yusuf Emre or whatever, and that's true because in actuality this is actual tasawwuf, not these not this tariqa style. I mean, even though there are tariqas in the past, but like where everything is based off of one simple aspect. Actually, and this is actually a sign of different sects in Islam, anyways, where the sign of these sects is that they only focus on their specific niche thing that they're focused on. Whereas a sign of a Sunni, a person of Orthodox and Sunnah, is that his interest is in all of Islam, every aspect of Islam.
Right.
So, with the show at Ertugrul, it is subhanAllah, it is I mean, you have the thing about it just shows justice and the rule of Islam and the desire to make Islam the uppermost over all other things. It's just like I can't even. I'm at a loss for words really, because I want to say something extreme and I don't want to say something extreme at the same time. But
how people who don't watch it are disbelievers, like that kind of stuff.
my takfir Ertugrul denialism.
It was, what was it? But what about like some of the scenes of like Ibn in season 1, the hadras that he was doing it, things like that, or like where like him the dream and stuff.
Yeah, like the hadra is like that happened like 3 times in the whole darn season, right? And then after that, it didn't even happen again.
Right. Yeah.
It didn't happen in season 2, 3, or 4. It just happened like 2 or 3 times in season 1.
Right.
The dream thing. See, the dream thing, I'm not even opposed to it, because even in the view of Ahl Sunnah is that karamat can happen. We believe in karamat, in the miracles of the righteous.
Right. Some
might argue that he wasn't righteous, but the point being is that in as a principle, it's understood that things like that can happen. And besides, it's a show. It's supposed to. I mean, it's not like entirely. The show has to give out some kind of vivid aspect to the story.
Yeah, what I think is really mind blowing about the show is that it's a Turkish show in Turkish. We're all reading. Like, no, most of us don't. I mean, we've picked up a few words here and there, but really we're just reading. Like,
we're reading.
It's like we read a damn novel. You think about it.
Yes.
Like Ertugrul, the series was like 300 hours of television. And then Osman is like, we're on episode 20 right now, right? I don't know if you're caught up. I just watched.
I'm caught up. Yeah. I just watched the last episode the day it came out on English.
Yeah,
Wednesday, I think it was.
Yeah, Wednesday night. Yeah, I basically watched it after like Isha, so I watched it around from like 12 a.m.
I watched it before Maghrib.
Yeah, I had to watch, like, I wait for the HD version to come out, and I'll pop it up on my.
I can't even wait, brother. I mean, waiting for that is like a crack fiend waiting for his next dose, man. Shit, I just can't wait.
No, because but it's really unique that a Bangladeshi dude and a Puerto Rican dude can be talking about a Turkish show, and it's like that. What I think is the sweetest thing about that program, about what he's done. I mean, and people are critique, here and there, but like it took. I will say though, I didn't like jump on board right away. How was it? How did you get into the show? Was it like something that I
didn't know about it either.
I have a habit. So like I've like shows like Breaking Bad, and it was like what's that other show that went viral on Netflix? Like House of Cards. These shows, I've never gotten into it because I know my habit is like if I get into a show, I'm gonna be addicted.
Mm-hmm.
So I stayed away from it, right? And so I remember watching Ertugrul when I first heard about it, like maybe like 3 years ago. When it was on Netflix, I watched season 1. I watched episode 1. I was like, that's all right, but I didn't like really get into it, right? But then I saw there was his brother. He's not on Facebook anymore. Abbas Qasimov. I don't know
I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
I think he's like lives in Australia or something. He was always posting all this like Turkish Sufi
Turkish
stuff.
stuff. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so he was always promoting. I was like, you know what? This dude's always talking about it. Let me just check it. Let me give it a fair shake. So I went back to watch episode 1, but then I watched like through. I was like, that's the key. You have to watch like on Netflix. Each like a full episode is actually 3 episodes.
Yeah.
So once I got through 3, then it was on.
Yeah. Me, I watched like 1 or 2 episodes, and then I just didn't have time. And then in 2017, I think it was 2017. No, it was 2018. Then I was playing with my girls in the backyard.
Yeah.
And I broke my leg in the process. I caught myself doing a football juke, right? Trying to fake them out because they were. I was playing dead. I was teaching them how to play dead man. You remember dead man from PG or school? You don't remember?
No, I don't think so. I don't remember that. Like
dead man is like when you have the ball, right, and then you trying to hit somebody else, and then they're it now, and they got to get you or get whoever else.
Okay.
Dead man.
Yeah,
like
I think we had a different name for it. I know what you're talking about.
We used to call it dead man. So, anyways, I was showing them that, and so they were trying to get me, and so I caught, trying to, fake a move on them, and in the process of doing it, I broke my leg. And so I was like, damn. So that messed me up. That put me out of work for like 2 months, I think. Yeah. So so in that time after the surgery, I said, I'm gonna hit this Ertugrul up now that I have the time. And in 3 weeks, brother, I went from the first episode to caught up on season 4. At that time, it was season 4, like episode 112. At the time when Kopek, when they started getting deep, between Ertugrul and Kopek.
Right. Yeah.
Man, they started getting real deep. It was like episode 110. I'm sorry. Yeah. Which that was like most of it.
I know on social media you don't accept like any season being over another, but are there any seasons particular like that you really are into, or any particular moment, so to speak?
I would say the most fiery season was season 4.
Mm-hmm.
The most fiery. I mean, all of them were fire, but I just think season 4 was just complete nonstop jihad against the kuffar, against the Crusaders, the Mongols, you name it. I mean, it was just non-stop intrigue, the treachery. Yeah. I mean, it was just non-stop. For me, season 4 was really, really.
Yeah, I would say for me I like 2 and 4.
Yeah, I like 2 too. 2 was bad, and that was because just that Mongol that added Noyan into the mix. I mean that. Right. I mean that really changed the game. Because that was subhanAllah, that's real life too. The Turks were the ones who were able to fend off against the Mongols. Nobody pretty much was able to do that. Yeah. Because for Mongols, everybody was a peon that can be stepped on.
Yep. Yeah, no, he had the best intro, and then like I think the way he like said things, like he's a
who you talking about?
Mehmet Bozdog, the director, is a master of setting up, like of knowing how to like play something up. So he plays up Sungertek in all on season 1. There's this older brother that disappeared. The Haiman is always talking about.
He's a very good storyteller.
And then he pops in season 2, right? To me, the most like, and that's the thing. You talk about like, man, there are scenes in that series that I could be watching. Like, there's certain times where I'll just be bawling. Like, I'll be watching that stuff. Like for me, the most emotional scene was like when Ertugrul returns to the tribe in season 4, when they think he's dead. The thing is, they like always thought, but it was something unique about it, because I think earlier there were scenes where they thought he was dead or something, but it wasn't built up. It wasn't like several shows long. It wasn't, you know what I mean? It didn't drag on. It didn't they didn't like praise Janaza. It's not like, and Gunduz was a kid. And you talk about how you show how his son reacted to it, right?
Yeah.
And then the horse comes back first, you know. But yeah, I think there's just so much. I mean, to me, it's a great dawah. Like, I mean, I've heard of people becoming Muslim by watching it.
Yeah, even Salafis like they'll be like, man, like I got my boys into it. They weren't into it, and then like recently, within the past few months, they were like one of them even got a Kai shirt. Like, I'm like, dang, you surpassed me. But
right,
and you know, the cool thing is so many Islamic concepts and values where you see it live in action.
Right.
And I think one of the most profound ones I think that was really good was in season 2 when Ertugrul essentially broke the tribe. He broke the Jamaat.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Because and I'm glad that actually happened, because a lot of Muslims are under this faulty concept that unity is like there's a common saying that we say now, like unity is equal the same. I forget, it's a term that they use now. Unity is not equality or everyone being the same, but but the point with that whole the issue with Ertugrul is like, the thing is that unity does not come at the cost of the effort or the what do you call it, what we're obliged to do. Islam is what unifies us. We hold on to the rope of Allah, and as a result, that's our unity. Not that we're just unified just to unify, right, or just because you're Muslim. Now, if you're not down with the program, then if you're not on the way, then you're in the way. Right. You know, and that's the thing. You know, that's what Ertugrul, like, he's he has conviction in this. You know, this is it. You're either on the way, you're in the way. If you're not on this path, I'm out. So, but do you think that could be do you think that could be misinterpreted by like a young, like somebody? Everything can be misinterpreted. But everything. Like, as far as like you or I looking at it and be like, all right, we're gonna the rest, because like the whole like the rest of the ummah's on this guidance, so therefore we're gonna be like doing our own thing, which we might be trying. Yeah. I mean, everything has a misinterpretation, because all the sects, the reason why they're sects is because they're using a precedent of the Quran and the Sunnah to justify it. Yeah. You understand? So I mean, everything can be misinterpreted, but like even for that, the thing is that what is it that they're disunifying over? You know, I would say, I guess you probably had in mind like the Mehridis or maybe Kharijis or Daeshi or something like that. But even now, it's like you have this whole, so like the example I'll bring up today is, or modernists now. Like, so you've got like, I don't, without naming organizations or individuals, it's just like you've got people who like are always, there's this thing called American Muslims, and American Muslims are represented by like certain organizations, right, or certain individuals, right, who aren't like necessarily new on the scene. They've been on the scene for a little bit, but then you've got other people who are like maybe academics, or there are people who are like, you know, there are also learned brothers who are like critiquing them in a way. And so you're like, and my thing is, man, can't we just get like, you know, I'm like, yeah, I agree with y'all, but like sometimes it's like y'all just hammering them down all day, like no matter what. It's always like, I mean, like, give it up, because like at a certain point it's like it's like beating a dead horse. Yeah, I mean, I understand I think I know exactly what you're talking about too, but I mean, like, it's kind of hard, because I don't even know how to answer that, honestly, because, and some people will say, oh, I talked to this person one-on-one
And they told me that if you expose me, I'm gonna do this, this, and this. But they won't name the person still, right? So it's either like, so we're in this gray, we're like almost in this like purgatory of like, oh, we have this inside information going on.
Right.
And no one wants to talk about, like, you know, and I'll tell you what how I approach these things. Because I you know, with the podcast and everything, with the other podcasts, is like you get all these connections, right? And then again, like going back to my work with Al-Maghrib like 15 years ago, like these are people that I can reach out to, you know, from either side, and just like talk to them, and like they'll always be like, oh, is my stuff gonna be like private? I'm like, well, yeah, I'm gonna keep it private, but like if there's something, you know, that's like, I don't know, you know.
The answer is long and comprehensive. I don't even know if we had a time, but to try to summarize it, I would say, yeah, like you rely on the people you confide in. And this is actually what all laymen are supposed to do, is to confide in a scholarly figure that they trust and trust with the deen. At the same time, also there's this circuit type of Islam, or like this showcase type of Islam that also does exist, where, you know, certain du'at, certain figures are, you know, it's about or an element of showcaseness and fame is a part and parcel of their dawah in a way.
Yeah.
That's actually why even one of my teachers is kind of like completely against that. Like he doesn't even broadcast his shuruh, his classes or anything like that. So you know, it's just a type of it, I guess, to try to pinpoint the difference, is the difference between how the Salaf viewed their interaction with the rulers. Some of them had a complete opposition of even dealing with the rulers, and some of them, like Ibn Jawzi said, it's cool if you deal with them, just know what your boundaries are, and if you're going to compromise or not. It's the same type of situation, because that type of showcase Islam where you're giving media attention is almost akin to the same political type of situation.
Yeah.
You know, where you're in it, like that type of correlation. So I guess with those type of figures in that type of showcase world, I guess the followers should be aware, the followers or the people who listen to them should be aware that not everyone is perfect. And that's also another problem, you know, like the now with social media and everything, we're suffering from two extremes. One extreme is like just always almost deifying the person that they take from. I don't want to say deifying in the sense of, you know, they're making shirk, but like a type of shakhsiyya, a type of personality worship that they're doing with that person.
Right.
And also this culture of defamation and like call out culture. You know? Maybe the simplest mistake or the simplest of or a non-issue is made into a mountain, or you know, like especially and here's even the worst part about it. We're actually performing demonization on those things that are really irrelevant. You know, demonization, like in the time of the Salaf, you had to do something bizarre and crazy. You know, like say Allah is everywhere, or at that time, you know, in the time of the Salaf, or some crazy statement in order to earn that type of demonization. But now, like things about Allah, speaking about Allah without knowledge, things that actually matter, things about the religion, distorting the religion, things like that. Now this demonization occurs over secondary issues of like fiqh issues, I guess you can say, fiqh issues, which are considered branch matters, furu' versus, usul. So, or, it's just a lot of extremism going on, even on both sides, whether it's conservatively inclined Muslims or liberal inclined Muslims. Obviously, I think there's more extremism on the liberal side, but ghulu breeds ghulu. Extremism breeds more extremism, and it just fuels each other.
All right, sounds good. All right, well, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up. If people want to reach out to you, like I think we've gone for like 2 hours.
Wow.
Yeah,
we
got
can scratch anything. We can
talk
go
forever.
Hours and hours on different. Subjects.
Well, you can come. Maybe we can always do something else. I know you you owe us a visit on Mad Mamluks, right?
Yep.
We can get more. I'm trying to keep it general, but again, this it's natural. Like I always got to talk about Salafi stuff, right? It's always especially that's how I know of you originally. So that's got to be touched upon. Sure. But yeah, for sure, man. How can people? Do you take? I had to put a Facebook post the other day because I get so many friend requests on Facebook that I've got to I don't take people's requests unless I've interacted with them like at some level online, like previously.
Yeah, me too.
Or I've met them in person. Right.
Yeah, I had to take like some interactions here and there, and start to know them.
Yeah.
Because now, there's so many people and stuff, and then again with that same thing, demonization culture that we have. You find posts from people on Facebook like, yo, if you follow this person, I gotta if I see you're on his friends list, I gotta delete you or whatever the case is, or block you. And I mean, it's just crazy,
Yeah, that kind of stuff. But it had I saw that a few years back. I want to say a brother I knew from the Columbus, Ohio Masjid, brother who I was on, and we were on good terms. And that's the thing. Whenever you even when I left the Mutkali brothers, I still consider them brothers. You know what I'm saying? It's still I would like to maintain good relationships.
Yeah.
But it's I saw it was really awkward because I used my move to Chicago as kind of a way to split. It was I think it would have been more challenging if I stayed in Ohio, right? But when I moved to Chicago, and I'd go back, and the first few times I'd visit Columbus, I'd always make a point to stop there. But you gotta understand, I was going. They would see me every day for maybe 2 to 3 years. So I remember, and I kind of what the heck was it? Yeah. So you go there, and they'd be like, "Yo, how's a Dawah Salafi in Chicago?" Right?
Dang.
And I'd be like, I remember that's how I got. I was like, yeah, I went to Masjid Tawheed once. They don't even line up straight. They can't even match the ankles up. Man, their line was all crooked at Juma. And then they were like, oh, for real? And so eventually just over time I just got kind of phased out. But there's brothers I'd stay in touch with. But sometimes you get calls from and the thing is, what makes it challenging sometimes is that when your only affiliation is on this really narrow understanding of Islam, it's gonna naturally break. There was this dude I know that I heard, he had moved from New York, I think it was, and we were friends for a short time. We used to kick it, Daisy brother, and I remember he hits me up one day. He calls me at work. I was in Ohio. I was working at this a medical device company at the time as an internship. Calls me up. He had my work number. He calls me up. He's like, "Hey man, yo, I heard you've been promoting and this is how they talk." He's like, "Hey yo, assalamu alaikum." Yeah, it's come to my knowledge that you've been promoting. You've been promoting
typical Medkhali dribble.
You've been promoting the likes of this individual by the name of Yasser Qadi.
Oh my goodness.
Like, quote unquote, right?
Oh my God. And let me tell you something, because this is something we forgot.
We actually can do jokes about this the rest of the time. I don't care.
Yeah, but I'm telling you right now, though.
Yeah.
See, the thing is that you had it good because since when I hit you up earlier, the demographic of Columbus was majority Muslim from other countries, right?
Yeah.
And less of an American, right? So the thing is that the most powerful medkhali centers, I guess you can say, was Philadelphia and Atlanta in the American context. You could say other portions, maybe even Chicago. But see, the thing is, like, it really hit hard in Philadelphia and Atlanta. And
would you say East Orange, Jersey was part of Philly?
Yeah, all that is
Philly.
East Orange, Jersey, Philly, because literally that's only like a 60-mile distance. We're talking about, Jersey is a little puny state.
Right.
So it's not that far of a drive. So that whole context, and I wouldn't even associate 100% Abu Muslima and his dawah, or maybe a portion of Abu Usama's dawah with it, but not to the extent of the Saudi Najdi pro-Madkhali style of Madkhalism, because there's different tangents. You got like Albanite Salafism, from was QSS was the main proprietors of that type of dawah at the time,
right.
Albanite Salafism, and then you had then you have like Najdi Salafism, which is more promoting of this Salafi jihadi type. Yeah. You got like then the main brunt of Salafi Dawah in the West in America is the Madkhali version. So and in those places where you taking a dude from the street, because see, we got that type of zeal, and then when you mix it with that type of Hizbiyah, is virtually Hizbiyah, like a partisan, a cult type of
gang mentality,
I guess you can say that. Yeah. It just makes it really rough, Madkhalis. I remember one time this brother came back from Egypt, and same thing that you just told me about. That brother approached you, right? But, so he said, "Let me talk to you for a second." All right, cool. So I heard you said some things about Sheikh Rabi' or whatever, or about Al-Madawi. And I just said, nah, I just don't think he's correct on Al-Madawi. And then at that point, when I said that, we were in the Somali, like a Somali hangout, because see, in Atlanta, Muslims roll deep like that, like Chicago, right? So there's a whole plaza of Somalis, and so we up in the at that time it was a pizza joint, owned by Somalis, halal pizza and everything. So and he pulled me out to the outside, in the parking area, like in the front. So then I was like, nah. And then after I said that, he came off and said, "You were Hizbi," like he started rioting and stuff. And so yeah, he was I love you.
Hi.
So she can't hear you because you're on. On me. But anyways,
I got you.
You have to stay right here. But anyways, what was it? Yeah, he started almost fighting, and then he claimed that I was putting my finger on him, or pointing my finger at him, so he got like rowdy and stuff. So I mean, alhamdulillah, after months later or a year later, I mean, he apologized and stuff. We're cool, but I only demonstrated that. I didn't mention who that person was, but I only mentioned it only because of the nature of what that type of dawah does to someone, really, ultimately, due to that zeal.
Yeah, and I think that's what I even noticed. Even the brothers who are from like the Somali background, they had really good. They were nice about stuff, right? They were. But the thing is,
because they had that Islamic. See, that's the thing. Moroccans, like Medkhalis of those type of even Pakistanis.
Yeah.
The thing is that when you've grown up in Islam, there's a type of adab, or a type of, at least some kind of softness of Islam in a way. I mean, some people would argue me, but I'm speaking more of a certain tangent.
If you live in a Muslim country growing up, that's what I'm thinking. Because like Abu Khadija is like Desi, right?
Yeah.
But he got none of that. He got all the garbage.
He got what?
All the garbage. Abu Khadija.
Oh, okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like as far as like how he deals with people. Like as far as the idea of like, just because you're Desi, it's not because you're Desi, it's like the environment. Because the Somali brothers I knew were like, they grew up in the Middle East or Somalia, and they were cultured in the Islamic environment.
Yes.
Versus being, I want to get YouTube famous because I hated Abu Khadija. That would be dope. I need like the clicks. Maybe I should clickbait this thing like modernist Muslim attacks Abu Khadija. They gotta sit through 2.5 hours.
Tabloid.
But I think that's where it was. Back to the point is like, this brother I knew, this American brother, Caucasian brother from like middle of nowhere, Ohio, like outside of Columbus, and we were always cool. And then he makes this post a few years back. He's like, and if any brother here has a problem with Salafi publications, then please defriend me. I wasn't gonna defriend him, but eventually I was just posting stuff that I think was just like problematic for his end, and he just like defriended me. And to me, I'm like, yo. And I'm like, dude, and I think I'm like, yo, if you know me, you got my number. I've been to your house. Like, can't we get some, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, to me, that's kind of messed up.
Yeah, because again, it's a cult, man. It's a cult. They don't understand like brotherhood. Like for them, brotherhood is like a affiliation to the to the cult, if you're down with the cult. Yeah. And it's not even like in Islam. It's not like in Islam, because see, in Islam the thing is that Orthodox speaking, from an Orthodox angle, you have to give your rights to your brother.
Right.
You say salams to your brother. You make the funeral. You fulfill each other's rights. And even to the point of one hadith where the Muslim is he who is safe from the tongue of his brother.
Yeah.
Okay. With these folk, that those rules only apply if you match the minhaj. Mm-hmm. If you don't match the minhaj, then those rules all of a sudden lose their relevance to you and applicability to you.
Right.
That's the thing. And that comes back to, everyone's guilty until proven innocent, like that, everything.
Yeah, I mean, you stick around long. You see burnout at some end. You see the same brother that called me up. Left the next time I think not soon thereafter. He used to have a beard deck down to here, and I was giving Juma khutbah at Ohio State one time. He invited me to give khutbah there, and I see some dude that looks familiar, but he got no beard, like clean shaven. And he came up to me, gave me salam. And I was like, "Talk, like, what's good, man? How you been?" He's like, "Yo, man, you could see, man, it's been struggling, And it was like, and like, cause it's like what happens was like he was into like fashion and like the music scene before he got religious, right? And he jumped in so fast with Dawah Salafiyah, so hard, and then like as the Prophet, peace be upon him, said that when you like go into something like paraphrasing like something that hard, like it's gonna like repel you. You know what I'm saying? And that's what happened to him, I think. And I think I'll check up on the guys and see what's going on. I think he's like an actor and like does plays and stuff, right? I mean, which is like, it's just funny how things like end up transpiring over time. But brothers, like, I mean, you hear the craziest stuff. Like brothers, I'd be like, and that's one of the things that got me thinking. Like back to it, it's like the crazy stuff I would hear. We just be hanging out, and there'd be like, there'd be a brother, it'd be like, yo, the Hizbis, all they talk about in their khutbahs are like akhlaq, being nice. They don't talk about important issues.
It's crazy.
And I was like, but isn't that like really important? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're thinking in your head, crazy. Or like this one brother, man, this one brother, man, Allah bless him. I love, like, we were family, and I hope he's still doing well. Him and my dad were family friends from the 80s. Like, he converted to Islam in the 80s. So he said two really ridiculous things on separate occasions one time. Like, but we were always like, he was always cool with but he was one of the brothers that was always like well loved, even by non-Salafis, because of his relationship. He was just a nice guy. But when he became a Madkhali, he was hardcore. So he would say something like, man, my parents converted to Islam though, but man, they died before they were on the Dawah.
That is crazy.
You know what I'm saying? I was
crazy.
Like, yo, bro, like, do you know how I was thinking, like, how many people convert to Islam and they make dua, like, they don't take anything.
Like a mini takfir. Honestly, the reason why, I'm surprised we didn't touch on this, but in reality, the reason why that Madkhali ideology proliferates is because it's actually a subcategory, or a like a miniature size of the more bigger issue that pervades modern Salafi fikr or thinking, which is Najdi, Saudi Najdism, basically.
Right.
Which comes back to the issue of takfir over the non-takfirables, mainly, with the mainly it's the issue of taking making takfir over people due to their actions, and not from the issue of their the qasd. Because see, the thing is with that, a lot of Salafis will understand and make it a requirement that qasd or the intent is necessary to worship Allah, right? Tawheed.
Right.
It is necessary.
Right.
But when it comes to the opposite form of ibadah, which is shirk, that intent is somehow negated, and just simply, just you doing that, oh, you're a mushrik, or you're a mushrik like this. That's the thing. It comes back down to a Saudi Najdi Salafism, I guess you can say.
Yeah, and the last thing, this is one of those things that really put me, that really like got me like, all right, I need to really look at where I'm hanging out, because he said something like, the Hizbiyun, they memorize the Quran. They can do that if they want to do that. They memorize the Quran, but they don't understand Aqidah. So therefore, I think we should focus more on memorizing Usul Thalatha. And I was like, like you would just hear these things. They're like, man, this is like, it's like that. What's that? Who's that player for the Lakers? He used to play Nick Young. You know that one meme where he's like kind of like looking sideways.
I remember that.
He's like that would be me in my head going off, like, I'm sitting there and like, what? Right.
Okay. Or like Will Smith when he does that.
All right, man. Ali, appreciate it. I kept you for a long time this afternoon on Ramadan, burning through valuable Quran and dhikr, like just like shooting the breeze time. So, alhamdulillah, but I think people enjoy the show. It's been good, man. It's been like being furloughed makes it easy, but
Yes, I know. Because I experienced the furlough, but then I went back to work. I'm like, oh boy.
Yeah. If people want to connect with you online, is there a way for them to do so, or are you just taking followers now at this point?
Yeah, I mean, I on Facebook is Boriqee Bay.
Yeah.
Boriqee Bay on Facebook, and but I don't even use Messenger, so like I'm pretty sure I probably got like 20, 30, 40, 50 messages. On Messenger. I don't even find.
You don't use Twitter, really, do you?
I kind of barely. But I don't even like. I like to I don't even like to use Twitter,
but people, so what they should do, they should just choose a follow option.
For like if they want a private, I mean, if not a private, if they want to send me a message, usually I use Telegram.
Okay, right.
Telegram, and it's on my Facebook It's on my Facebook profile in the very front. The link to my Telegram.
Yeah.
They can hit me up, privately there.
Mm-hmm.
But like to type it out or to name it, it's kind of long.
but I think if they want to engage, I felt like the best way to engage with.
Oh, and I have the website too.
You have a website? What's the website?
The Boriqee Notes.
Boriqee, okay.
The Boriqee Notes. I think it's .com or I think it's .com. Boriqee.
Okay.
Boriqee. The Boriqee Notes. It's on my Facebook.
I'll put it in the show notes too, both because like I'm gonna publish this as both a YouTube. Okay. I'm gonna put this up on Facebook as a full video, YouTube as a full video, and then the podcast apps on the audio format. And I'll probably clip some stuff too once I get around to it. I'm still figuring out my video editing stuff. Like I'm trying to streamline the process just so it's like fast, right?
Yeah.
Time is of the essence, but I will let you go and do your thing, and we will be signing off. For Sultan Sneakers, you make sure you subscribe on YouTube, but also Facebook, Instagram. I'm on TikTok, Twitter, wherever you can, and then check the show notes, and we'll talk to you soon. All right.